Good morning, everyone, and welcome in to another edition of WST Sunday Live. My name is Connor Hrabchak. Today, I'm joined by Lyss, Houde, and we've got another jam-packed show. This is 3 straight now with a Hockey Night in Canada win the night before, leading into WST Sunday Live. So we've had some fun shows, and today's going to be no different. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Lyss, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing super well, and you're totally right. We've had 3 Hockey Night in Canada home games back to back to back here, and pretty favorable results in all 3. So having some fun on these Sunday mornings totally makes it worth your while to be getting up so early to join us, and making it worth our while to get up and do the show for you.
Yes, absolutely. And it was another fun night. I don't think they announced a sellout, but it was really close. Like they were maybe a few hundred seats short. It was a great crowd last night. They were treated to a great game too. The Jets, obviously, they've been playing well as of late, but Ottawa was also 8-2 in their last 10 coming into it, had won 6 their last 7. So 2 of the best teams in Canada at this very moment last night inside Canada Life Center. And it was a great game up until the third when the Jets pulled away. We are going to get right into it with the Winnipeg Jets 4-2 win over the Ottawa Senators last night. Then we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to talk a lot about the Winnipeg Jets, but then later on, we're going to bury it. But we're going to talk about Canada's loss to Latvia, and Canada plays Germany today in the World Junior Championships. But that was one of the biggest upsets in World Junior Hockey Championships history. So we can't not mention it as much as we probably don't want to. And then we're going to preview the upcoming schedule for the Jets. They've got 9 of their next 10 at home. They've been really good at home this year. So we're going to cover a lot of topics here, but starting with last night's game list, what did you see from the Jets 4-2 win over the Sens?
Yeah, so I mean, I will preface this by saying I watched this game after it happened because I had some family stuff last night. So I came home and then watched it on the PVR, and I gotta say, watching a hockey game when you know the result, not nearly as fun, even though you know that the team
Really?
that you're hoping to pull out a win. No, I like not knowing what's going on. I'm like, oh, when does the power play come here? When does Jensen get a penalty and the Jets fumble this power play and Neil Pionk gets it? Like, because I'd seen some stuff on the internet
Right.
and all that good stuff because I knew the score, and I'd watched the third period live. It was a bit all over the place, but I knew what I wanted to watch for. And it was, who are these Ottawa Senators, right? I find that, me personally, every time I watch a game like this, I'm reminded of how little Eastern Conference hockey I actually do watch on a day-to-day. Big Western Conference guy. I prefer the time zone. I prefer watching the opponents, the Winnipeg Jets. So I was really impressed with the Ottawa Senators. I think they have a lot of really, really skilled guys, and some of their skilled guys weren't even on full display yesterday. The Batherson-Norris line was not anything to write home about whatsoever, but not only did they have those guys, but they were playing a really solid, complete team game, in my opinion. Lots of guys who were, doing a little bit more of that stuff that we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets this year that we've liked in terms of finishing checks and playing outside of necessarily the scope of your role to do what you need to do in order to give your team the best chance of winning, no matter what team is on the ice. So I thought the Ottawa Senators played a good game, and it's one of those games that, once again, the Winnipeg Jets won. It wasn't the other team that handed them that win and secured their own loss. It was a Winnipeg Jets win, which is always nice to see.
Yes, absolutely. And I will go to bat for watching a game after you know the result. Because it's different in the sense that you know what's coming, but I almost feel, and I can't speak this morning. I only do this for the playoffs, is watch a game twice, unless it's like, I don't know, such a big regular season game like the 7-0 win over the Avs last year that I'll watch twice just to see like what happened. But I think watching it a second time is like 10 times better if you're actually like analyzing what's happening in the game, or like watching a certain player, because you're not as, kind of numb to the moment, I guess, where you're just kind of like, oh, I don't know what's happening here. You're just kind of going with the flow. Like, what's happening. So you can see the little plays, and coaches mention all the time details. I think when they rewatch the film, they can see, you know, this little play that Neil Pionk makes, or Adam Lowry pokes a cross seam pass on the penalty kill that saves a goal. And then the Jets end up winning 4-2. And then like that little poke middle of the second period that like no one even remembers comes back and is a big moment, because that's probably a 3-0 game at the time. And the Jets end up winning 4-2. But like, if you rewatch a game, you see those little details that coaches mention all the time. And you do hear coaches mention it all the time. So I will say, watching a game after once,
for sure, when you're watching in person, you're just like, when's a goal gonna happen? Like, or you're watching for something super specific. Like, I do like watching a little bit with that hindsight bias of like, okay, when did things start going well for this team? When what changed? And then, like, especially if you know specifically with the Winnipeg Jets, I find at least, is that they'll have games where they have a brutal second period or something like that. You're like, okay, what about their behavior is different that actually led to this outcome here? And it's definitely better for that. I totally agree with you. But there's just something about, like, I love hockey for the suspense, and there's no suspense when you know exactly what the score is and what the timestamps are of the goals.
Yeah.
And yeah, from Slick, that's exactly correct, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And from all caps Kyle here saying a friend PVRs every Bomber game that they go to and then rewatches them when they get home. I know a lot of people that do that as well, especially for Bomber games, because Bomber games like are just so nuts that half the time you're not even paying attention to the game. So if you do really care about the Bombers and you want to like analyze it, I know a lot of people that do PVR it as well.
I've never rewatched a Bomber game in my life.
Never.
Good for you.
Not dedicated enough. You're not dedicated enough.
No, I'm not.
Well, let's get back to the Jets and their 4-2 win. I want to say that I only watched this game once, but what I saw was the top line brought the Jets back into this game when they were down 2-0. And a lot of people have mentioned the slow starts here in chat this morning, and I have to agree. This was another slower start. Things definitely changed after the Jets went down 2-0 and started drawing some penalties, but the top line really got things going with 2 goals at 5-on-5. I know that second Scheifele goal technically wasn't Connor, Scheifele, Vilardi, because Ehlers poked the puck to Scheifele on that goal. But the top line for me, every time they were on the ice in that second period after the Jets went down 2-0, they were generating something, and they were the ones that got the Jets back into this game. And they've been dominant for, I don't know, 2 months now. They've been every sense of the word, a top line, and they've produced like it, and they got them back into this game. Lyss, I don't know if you saw the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've talked a little bit about the top line on many shows in the last couple months, because like you said, they've been really good since the start of the season. And what I mean by that is not since game one. I'm talking about since like an early chunk in the season there. It was so funny. I tuned into Kenny and Rennie last night, and I had this like hot take I was going to bring to Winnipeg Sports Talk today, but I think I don't think it's going to be overly hot. I think it's bordering on a lukewarm take at this point, because Kenny and Rennie had a lot of kind things to say about that top line as well. My question mark with this team for a long time has been in the category of the whole idea of like the mental toughness, like their ability to come back, their ability to bounce back, their ability to play up when they're down, all those sorts of things. And also, is their elite core as good or good enough comparatively to the other elite cores in the league, right? The goaltending. I am a Connor Hellebuyck truther and believer. I think that he does fall into the category of elite enough. Have we seen that in the playoffs yet? No, not necessarily. I think we still will. Josh Morrissey is falling into that camp now of you need an elite 1A defenseman to win a Stanley Cup. Josh Morrissey, I think, can do that from the Winnipeg Jets. My question mark was on, is Kyle Connor, is Mark Scheifele, is whoever the third guy is in that situation, is that a good enough top line to do what top lines need to do? And I am starting to think that this team might have the mental toughness to do what it takes. And I'm starting to think that their top line might be able to compete at that level over a longer period of time, right? That's kind of what I'm looking at now. I understand we're going to be able to watch them pot some power play goals. I understand we're going to be able to watch Kyle Connor forecheck in a way that I haven't seen him do in his career. That's great. I'm really enjoying that at this point, but I'm looking ahead to where it really counts. And I'm starting to think that, based on the Florida win, based on the Toronto win, which I guess we can talk about a little bit, where that one, again, circled in the calendar, haven't beat them in a couple of years now and everything like that. I think that this group could have a little bit more of that dog in them that they desperately needed. This was getting to be a little bit of a Toronto situation for me where it's like, at what point is enough with a core if you can't get what you need out of them? And I'm not saying that I was begging the Winnipeg Jets to move Kyle Connor off the books or anything like that. But you do have to wonder, right? When a group hasn't lived up to the expectations that you've wanted them to for some period of time. But I think they might be them. I think there might be some potential for this group to give Winnipeg Jets fans a little bit more this year than we've seen in the past.
Yes, and I do have some numbers here. I posted these on Twitter yesterday. I'm going to bring them up. The Connor Scheifele-Vilardi line since October 30th, and if you remember, October 30th was the game on the road against the Detroit Red Wings. We actually had a Winnipeg Sports Talk watch party for this game on a Wednesday night. It was so much fun. The Jets pumped the Red Wings 6-2, and the top line dominated that game. But going into that game, they had been outscored 9-2. Their analytics were under 50% in almost every single possession metric, every single expected goals, scoring chances, shots for, Corsi, everything. And since that moment, they are still negative in Corsi. They're still getting outshot attempted, if you want to say that, but they've been dominant since then. 25-12 in goals. These are at 5-on-5 as well. The Jets still have the top power play in the NHL, and those three have been a big reason for that. So 25-12 in goals. Expected goals up over 56% now, 56.4. Corsi at 49, but scoring chances up at 53. I asked Scott Arniel after the game last night if on the Corsi and scoring chances that you saw there, if that line's maybe holding on to the puck a little bit longer to wait for maybe a high danger chance, and that's why their chances are so well, but their shots aren't. They're just possessing the puck so much. And he gave me a very technical answer on, basically a long-winded, it depends on what the opposition defense is playing in terms of their defensive coverage. But that's what I'm seeing from that line. And that's why I asked the question is I'm seeing them hold on to the puck a lot. I'm not seeing them throw like you see the Niederreiter line do. They just throw the puck to the net to play simple, play direct, get the puck to the net and create chaos. I'm not seeing that line do that. I'm not seeing them throw low danger chances on net. I'm seeing Mark Scheifele pass the puck off the wall to himself and pick it back up and then find Kyle Connor for a one-timer in the middle of the slot where maybe another line would just shoot that puck from the corner and try and create chaos in the crease, right? So that's what I'm seeing from that line. I do agree with you that they need to elevate, and they have elevated, but coming in against the McKinnons and the McDavids and all those players that we'll see down the stretch, it's going to be a good challenge for them, but they've answered to the task because let me bring this up one more time. A 25-12 goal share since October 30th. That's 25 5-on-5 goals in 28 games. That's 4.3 goals per 60, which if they played at that pace for the entire season would be the fifth best mark of all forward lines in the NHL. So they've been a top 5 line in the NHL since October 30th. So they've been great, right?
I want to bring up a Garrett Hole tweet from yesterday because you tweeted that graphic, right? And it got a lot of attention. And Garrett Hole, who, if you're not familiar with who he is, he's an analytics guy who's done some work in the NHL. He said it in the preseason, I understand and can agree with trying the trio again. I wouldn't have a long leash, but worth a shot. If both Corsi and goals are good, keep them together. If only one is good, keep, provided that the team is doing well. If both are bad, break them up. And right now we're on condition number 2 because they are scoring in terms of real goals, but their Corsi is a little bit lower. Completely understand what the take. And I think that that's an important way to look at it. And I see that, there's some people in the chat we're talking about, people wanted to break them up. I'm going to say that, people who are asking for Logan Stanley's head, it's the same camp, guys. We understand people who are calling for them to break up. We're saying because we're not seeing the results. And then the results came. So you change your opinion. That's how mature adulthood opinions work, right? So I think that that's important. But the Corsi number is the one that I want to focus on a little bit because sometimes AHL and NHL clubs can be very similar, but sometimes they can be very different. And Connor and I sometimes joke that the Manitoba Moose right now, if you're following that team and familiar with where they're at, not doing super hot, not in the best stretch of games of their, tenure of their 25 years of Manitoba Moose so far. It's okay. No. It happens. They outshoot a lot of their opponents. We call them Corsi merchants. They are getting perimeter shots like nobody's business, and they are not giving up a ton in terms of quantity of shots, but they are getting out high danger chanced every single night. The Connor Scheifele-Vilardi line is the type of line that will come in and they will cycle that puck, whatever, until they have that high percentage chance to go through. That's the exact same way that the power play runs. The power play, the first unit is not peppering pucks on net. You'll finish a power play and it's like only 2 shots on net, even if they don't score in the 2 minutes, and people will lose their minds. It's like they're trying to do that. The question is not, did they screw up? The question is, should that be what they're trying to do? Because they are doing what they are intending to do, right? Like that's what that top line does, is they look for the highest probability shot to take. And they don't care if, like they would prefer to walk away with 0 shots in that offensive zone than 2 garbage shots from the high circle that, was going straight to the net with no screen, no touch, whatever. Like they are all about playing high quality hockey, not high quantity hockey. So that's why I'm a little bit less concerned about the Corsi number. They're not looking to bump that bad boy up, right? The only reason you're looking to bump that bad boy up is by decreasing the shots against, not increasing the shots for.
100%. And Scott Arniel's mentioned that with the top line is their ability to play away from the puck, ability to play defense, has really elevated what they've been able to do as a line. And I got to agree with Eric K, who said Vilardi's the glue. This is, I think Gabriel Vilardi is bringing out the best version we've seen of the Connor Scheifele duo, which is an impressive feat because we've seen a lot of people on that right wing, and Gabe Vilardi, I mean, this little 28 game stretch here, I know that's not the biggest sample size, but they still have played like 350 minutes in that time or something. That's a big enough sample size, in my opinion.
And also like based on, because again, Kenny and Rennie brought this up yesterday. How many games did they play together last year? 17 or something like that. Like it really wasn't that many. And we're starting to get into the territory of more good games than bad games from this trio at this point, right? And also, whatever it takes to get Connor playing like this, I don't even care. Like whatever. Go for it. Keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear from Scott Arniel. He was asked about the top line and had an answer that is very relevant to what we're talking about right now with the top line playing against the best players in the NHL and what they'll need to do down the stretch and how they've shown that over these last 28 games. Here's what he had to say after the game.
Top line. Nope, not talking about them. Nobody knows about them. I'm keeping it nice and quiet. No, but we'll sit in here, and if we're going to play Colorado in a couple of games there, we're going to talk about McKinnon and those guys, that line, McDavid, especially when Draisaitl's playing there. There's some big lines. Matthews, when him and when he's on his line, there's some great lines around this league, and he takes an awful lot of focus. The opposition pays a lot of attention to him, and now these guys are obviously going to get even more attention, but they've been pretty consistent for me, in my opinion, from the start of the season to where we are now. They've had some success over the last couple of years, but now they've really put it together, and certainly having Gabe healthy, playing all these games, and just the being in sync like they are, you can see it, that they read off each other so well. It's kind of the last point there, being able to find holes, find those spot plays that create those opportunities.
Yeah.
So there it is, Scott Arniel on the top line, their ability to, find those pockets, find those soft areas, like we saw on Kyle Connor's goal, which opened the scoring for the Jets, as he was just all alone in the middle of the slot. And you cannot do that for Kyle Connor. Both Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, I saw, I believe the stat was their top 5 in goals in the NHL, each, and their teammates, or their top 10 or something. And again, they both have 22 goals, so they're up there for sure. And yeah, both on pace for almost 50 goals. I think it's 49 they're having such an unbelievable year. And I think a lot of credit goes to Scott Arniel, who should be the favorite for the Jack Adams at this point as we sit here on December 29th. And a lot of credit goes to Gabe Vilardi as well for bringing out the best in those two and how they've been able to read off each other on the top line. I want to move on to Nikolaj Ehlers, unless you have anything else on the top line, because I thought Ehlers, only his 4th game back, including a little break there with the holiday break, but I thought he had one of his best games of the season, 3-point night. But from the start of the game, you could tell that he was going to have a night. Like he was flying all over the ice, no pun intended. But then you look at his goal, and I asked Scott Arniel about this after the game, because you see his goal, and Nikolaj Ehlers is flying. Zone entry king is what everyone calls him, right? He's flying into the zones, generating chances, doing the big loops around the offensive zone. But then his goal, he's just kind of gliding into the offensive zone, and everyone's backing up. Everyone's at the hash marks. And I asked Arniel about this after the game. If the threat of speed can sometimes be just as good as going full throttle into the zone, here's what Arniel had to say.
Sometimes being just as good as flying down the road.
Yeah, for sure. He's a guy, when the opposition defense see him coming, they're not real keen on keeping a tight gap. They don't want to get embarrassed by getting beat wide. And when he does it enough, when he does it consistently, exactly all of a sudden kind of the sea parted there, and he had the big wide open sort of ice to get inside the blue line and to get even closer to the goalie. So his speed is a weapon, and when he uses it, it really is so effective for us.
So there it is, Scott Arniel on Nikolaj Ehlers and that goal specifically, which put the Jets up 4-2 at the time. But Lyss, I want to ask you, what did you see from Nikolaj Ehlers last night? And do you agree with me that you could kind of tell, even from the first few shifts of the game, that Ehlers was going to have a big night?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, it was a great question that you asked. And I completely agree with Scott Arniel's answer, where you're totally right that the gap is a little bit different when you're defending one-on-one or even in zone defense when that guy's coming in. Because if you jump that step a little bit too much, he is gone. And there are few players in the league that will make the decisions that Nikolaj Ehlers makes with the speed that Nikolaj Ehlers makes those decisions. He's a weird guy. He's a weird player to play against. You just kind of, you never really know exactly what's going to happen. And my favorite Nikolaj Ehlers play of the game yesterday was the pass for the Mark Scheifele backhand goal, whatever that thing was. Loved it. But it's like that pass. It's like, oh, okay, sure. Why not? Right. Like, I think this is a player that we've talked about extensively. And I think there's little new to say about a guy like this, when he's been consistently throughout his career, had similar strengths but similar weaknesses as well. But generally speaking, I do see still a little bit of potential yet to be unlocked between him and Perfetti. I do still think at the end of the day, if it were up to me, I don't know if I would play them together. But again, that's a long-standing opinion that's also based on not wanting to see Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor together, which clearly need to get my head rocked for a second, because that's a bad take to have right now. So I still think that line, not only does it have some potential, it needs to have some potential, right? Because you need both him and Cole Perfetti in your top six. And that's the only option is for them to play together, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when the top line is playing as good as they are, it makes it a lot easier to kind of wait on the second line. And again, Ehlers has been back 4 games, and I thought Cole Perfetti's looked really good. Snipe City 1-5-1-1 brings up a good point here. Did you see Cole Perfetti's hit in the third period?
No.
He fully nailed someone on the forecheck and freed up the puck, and the Jets got possession. I was sitting up there in the press box, and my jaw was on the floor. I was like, was that Cole Perfetti? Yeah, it was.
Their play away from the puck this year has been better across the board.
Better.
Like Kyle Connor, Cole Perfetti, it's been significantly better. And Nikolaj Ehlers, while we're talking about him, I cannot get over that power play goal, the Gabe Vilardi goal.
Yes.
Such a funny goal because listen, we've talked about the power play extensively. We did a deep dive on the power play that I still think to this day is one of our best aged videos. The content that we talked about in that is very, very timely and appropriate because we're still seeing the same things from that unit. But
yes,
the Josh Morrissey and Kyle Connor back and forth, little passing. I was almost getting frustrated when I was watching. I was like, what are you doing? But all of a sudden, up comes the high defender, and over the other defender pulls over a little bit to Nikolaj Ehlers, and yet down the pass still goes, and he doesn't try the jam play again. He gives it right across. He knows exactly what he's doing. But Nikolaj Ehlers trying the jam play or being the one to do the jam play and stuff, how fun. How fun is that? Because you know that you have an elite guy on your team right now who can do that every single time. Everyone's expecting him to do it. We've talked about the gravity score of Gabe Vilardi. People know how much of a net front threat he is. But then all of a sudden, if you have another guy who's able to come in and the versatility of that player is so much fun. And if you're a hockey fan, you just enjoy watching it. It's fun.
Yeah. And I wrote this exactly in my takeaways piece for Illegal Curve. All 4 of the goals were of the highlight reel variety, and in one way or another. I mean, you can talk about, as AJ says here, the Ehlers chip pass to Scheifele. You could talk about the Scheifele pass to himself off the boards on Kyle Connor's goal. You could talk about which goal am I missing? The Vilardi one, where Ehlers throws a one-time pass and Vilardi taps it in, and the power play looks the best it has puck movement wise. And we've we're starting to get used to the puck moving so much. Like here in Winnipeg, it's been a few years where it hasn't moved as much, and we're starting to see it. And when you do see it, it's like, whoa, where did this come from? But this is becoming the norm with the best power play in the NHL. And then Nikolaj Ehlers, obviously, just backing everyone up and then firing a shot blocker side. The Jets went bang, bang there, scored 2 goals in, 86 seconds, to quote Dennis Bayak. That was the roof blew off that place when Nikolaj Ehlers scored that goal to make it 4-2. And yeah, all 4 goals were highlight reel goals, high skill goals. And the Jets' best players were their best players with the top line, Ehlers, Hellebuyck, which we can get into now if you want, before talking about the defense core. I see a lot of people in chat talking, obviously about Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola. Surprise, surprise, but we'll get there.
Who?
Let's talk about Connor Hellebuyck, because it's about time we wrap up the Vezina conversation. I think that
it's done. It's decided. 2025 is a write-off.
Yes. If the season ended today, he'd probably be a unanimous winner. And here are some numbers, and I present this to you as a Hart Trophy discussion, not as a Vezina Trophy discussion, okay? Connor Hellebuyck, amongst goaltenders who have played at least 5 games, so we're taking out like the outlier players who have played 1 game and got a shutout or whatever. He's first in goals against average, 2.08. He's first in save percentage, 9.928. He's first in shutouts with 4. He's first in wins with 23. Second place is 19. So he's 4 wins ahead of second place. And he's first in goals saved above expected, 19.93. Just for context, he had 30 last year per natural stat tricks tracking and goals saved above expected. And he's already at 20 this year with almost a 930 save percentage and what would be the best goals against average of his career. Like, he is putting up career numbers coming off of a Vezina. It's unbelievable. What have you seen from Connor Hellebuyck? It's kind of a dumb question, but maybe I'll ask you about his Hart chances. I mean, it's tough for a goalie to win one, but Hellebuyck's clearly doing everything possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what's important here for this conversation is that he's leading the league and he's elite right now, performing at an elite level in the things that should matter, that we care about, and also the things that they actually put into consideration, right? Wins, don't care. Goals against average, don't really care all that much. Like, I am much more interested in these goals saved above expected, right? Like, people talk about advanced analytics, whatever. Like, save percentage, like, shot quality is so important. Maybe I'm biased because I watch a lot of Jets hockey, and shot quality is what they're all about. But anything that's based on sheer quantity doesn't factor in anything to do with quality of teammates or quality of competition whatsoever, which I think is a huge miss. But he's like, F you, I'll just lead in all of them. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. The basic stats, the adjusted stats, the non-adjusted stats, whatever. And that's, to me, the most impressive part of it all, right? Because, we can galaxy brain things and talk about the advanced stuff, or we could talk about the basic stuff. There's something to talk about here. He's leading everything by a significant margin in quite a few of the categories as well. So in terms of Vezina, agreed. Season ends today. I don't even think they named the other 2 nominees just to save them a little bit of, getting their hopes up, right? Like, he's the winner. The Hart conversation, like, you have to include elite goaltenders in that conversation more than they do right now, and the general talking heads and the general conversations. Like, you could have a guy win the Rocket Richard and the Hart. You could have a guy win all kinds of other player awards and the Hart, and they often do, right? Oftentimes a guy who's in Hart contention is league leading in something, if not some form of nominee, like a Norris candidate or something like that. But they're genuinely, like, is it because the Vezina and the Hart criteria have some similarities if you were to give the Hart to the goal? Like, is that why? Because by the definition of the award, the Jets are performing. The Jets would not be performing this well if he weren't there. He's putting up an elite individual performance. Like, whatever, I know that the definition of the Hart can feel ambiguous sometimes, but pick any one of them, and he should be a leading candidate, if not the leading candidate.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I know we're sitting here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, so it's easy for us to agree on that, but it's
no bias whatsoever.
No bias.
More objective takes.
Exactly. But the Jets are first in the league, and they would not be without Connor Hellebuyck. And I know you can say that about a lot of the top teams, but he's doing this comment right here from Tyson. I don't think there's another player doing more for their team than Connor Hellebuyck is. I 100% agree. And I think that that's why he should at least be in the conversation. I'm not saying he should be the front runner for the Hart. He should be up there with whoever you want to mention. Kirill Kaprizov was a name that was popular off the first couple months of the season. And the Wild have kind of trailed off a little bit. So I don't know.
But then the question goes to like something with like, okay, like Quinn Hughes, in my opinion, Norris leader this year, right? Like he's having like a really good season, all these sorts of things. Like if, obviously we need to see a little bit more from the Canucks and need to step up a little bit, but like at what point does he get into the Hart conversation? Like I feel like goaltenders and defensemen, like I feel like just don't get the love that they deserve. So that like people just look at like these elite Connor McDavid types and they're like Hart. It's like, well, yeah, I get you. I'm following here, but like, let's diversify a little bit. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Eric K saying, Helly's the reason my nephew wants to be a goalie. Very inspiring. Eric K, if you live in Canada, make sure your nephew stays a goalie. We need it. We need it
I'll
badly.
do anything, please.
We need a goaltender. Okay.
We're in an epidemic.
We got a problem. But yeah, he's been incredible. And I don't really know what else to say about Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, I brought up the stats there. He's one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, and we've talked about it many times on this show because it seems like every time that we have the Sunday morning show, at least the last three, it's off of a Hockey Night in Canada win where Hellebuyck played great. He's a Hall of Famer, should be. If he wins his third Vezina this year, which he has the inside track to do so, then he's definitely a surefire Hall of Famer, back-to-back Vezinas and winning 3 in your career. That's incredibly impressive. And
get him a cup to just
nail
it down. Just to secure that, please.
Exactly. I have to agree. We're going to get to it a little bit early, but let's go to trending up, trending down. There is a lot that you can choose from, especially with trending up because the Jets are coming off. Someone brought up the comment earlier on in the show, but maybe their most impressive 3-game stretch of the season with the 5-0 win over the Wild, the 5-2 win over the Leafs, and then last night, the 4-2 win over the Senators, who, like we said off the top, very tough opponent, very good opponent coming in. So let's get to trending up, trending down. And I want to see everyone in the chat give their picks as well as we kind of dial in our picks. And Lyss, I know we went kind of off the board last week with our picks, but or at least I did. Maybe I'll take the credit for that. But we will stay on topic this week, and I will pick the correct amount of players. I will stay to one. This is trending up or down, a segment where we outline who's trending up or down for the Winnipeg Jets over the past week of play. The rules are simple. Both of us will each pick a player who has been trending up or trending down, and we cannot repeat an answer that has already been said. To make things tougher, we also cannot repeat any answer that was said last week. Last week, I said Kieran Walton. Lyss said the assistant coaches. And for trending down, we said the Fleury-Pionk pairing. So those players are off the board. The most important rule of this segment is that all of you who have joined us here live on YouTube must hit the chat room and let us know your picks for trending up, trending down. Lyss, I'll let you go first. There's a lot of obvious picks for trending up. And like I said, I'll keep it to one player this week, but I'll let you take the floor. Who's your trending up pick of the week?
Yeah, so it's tough because I want to choose between 3 guys. And I think it's pretty obvious who are the 3 guys I want to choose from. And I'm going to go with Kyle Connor just because I think he is the guy who not only is he scoring incredible goals, forechecking, we've talked about how he's looked a lot better away from the puck. And I think his aggression is starting to show, which is really awesome and makes him a bit more of a versatile player. But he's a guy who has such a big impact on this team and could have such an impact on this team kind of going forward. I think him playing elite hockey, like we've seen some pretty elite hockey from Mark Scheifele in his career. We've seen some elite goal scoring from Kyle Connor in his career. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of 200-foot play, and I don't necessarily want to go there yet for in terms of like elite, but playing a really complete hockey game. Like, we've seen a lot more of that from Kyle Connor this year. And this week I thought he was great against the Leafs. I thought he was great last night. And I think, there's a couple of Central Division games coming up. We're going to see Nashville in town on Monday, and then they play a New Year's Eve game in Colorado. So a couple of big tests coming up. And I think he's trending in the right direction to make an impact in those games for sure. So Kyle Connor gets my trending up of the week.
I love the pick. I think Kyle Connor, Murata Tesh from The Athletic, good friend of ours, released an article this past week actually on Kyle Connor's defensive game and how his defensive metrics are a lot better this year. I said earlier in the show that Gabe Vilardi deserves a lot of credit for that line success over the last 30 or so games. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele obviously deserve the credit as well because they have bought in away from the puck, like Scott Arniel has said many, many times. My trending up is going to be Mark Scheifele. So we're taking the top two players. I was going to say Nikolaj Ehlers, but he's been back 4 games. I mean, he had a 3-point night last night. He played great. We've talked about him plenty. I'm going to go with Mark Scheifele. Since being left off of the Four Nations roster, Team Canada, he has 9 goals, 8 assists, and 17 points in 11 games. And in the month of December, he's tied for first in the NHL in goals with 10. He's tied with Zach Hyman, who was also left off of the Four Nations roster for Team Canada. So maybe those two players are kind of battling out the motivation for being left off of Team Canada. But Mark Scheifele, all the things you said about Kyle Connor can also be said about Mark Scheifele, that he's bought in defensively. They're playing more with the puck. They're holding onto the puck more. Another 2-point night last night. And then this is supposed to be for the week. And that includes Monday against Toronto when Mark Scheifele had maybe his best game of the season, a hat trick. The top line accounted for all 5 goals in that one. Just an incredible game and his pass as well to Kyle Connor in that game. So Mark Scheifele, I mean, he's playing some of the best hockey of his career. Someone said earlier on that he's playing like 2018 Scheifele. I could not agree more. I mean, the playoffs are a different story. That was the best Scheifele that we've seen. I still believe it to this day, but he's definitely trending up to playing that level of hockey against great opponents, Minnesota, Toronto, Ottawa, who was 8-2 in their last 10 coming in, right? So these are good games for Mark Scheifele. And as Al Broderick said, he's sticking it to Team Canada. Maybe if there's an injury, he'll be the guy that comes in. He'll be the first call up. But anyways, who's your trending down pick? Do you want to go first on this one as well? Or do you want to?
No, you go.
Defer? Okay. I've seen a few. I have a pick. I'm ready. I've seen a few people say it in the chat. I'm going to go with Mason Appleton. He has no goals, I believe, in his last 8 games. In his last 7 games, he just has 1 assist. Last night, obviously, he had the empty net situation, which a lot of people are dunking on him for, where he has the puck at center ice and there's a player in front of him and he doesn't shoot it. Whatever. The Jets still won. They were up 2 goals. They killed the clock, whatever. Yes, he should have shot the puck, whatever. The trending down pick goes much more broad than that one play. That line has hit a bit of a cold streak. I brought it up on last week's Sunday Live that their goals are even, but they're kind of getting outplayed. And I know they're playing against the other team's best, but Nino Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton seems like they're not generating enough, getting to the middle of the ice enough right now. And I think Mason Appleton, while he's a good complement to Adam Lowry and Nino to like kind of play along the walls and dominate the cycle and things like that, that line is just not getting off the walls enough and into the middle of the ice where they can, kind of create chaos. And he also is doing a lot of this thing right now where he takes the low danger shot. I brought that up with the top line earlier, where they are not taking the low danger shot. They're holding onto it and waiting for Kyle Connor to pop open in the middle of the slot. Mason Appleton right now is shooting a lot of low danger shots, at least by my view. And it's kind of killing that line because you shoot a puck from the corner, the rebound pops out, and other way, the puck's going the other way, and you now have to play defense. So I think I'm going to go with Mason Appleton. He's my trending down pick of the week, but I'm sure that third line, as we've seen many times, will bounce back next week. Lyss, who's your trending down?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a very similar line of thinking, and I'm going to go with Nino Niederreiter for all of the reasons that you said as well. Mm-hmm. And also just the second unit, I think, needs a little bit more life being breathed into them. And so I think we can, contribute that. A little bit of that can be attributed to him as well, just because he is a key part of that unit. He plays his best hockey when he's in tight spaces and in front of the net and trying to jam those pucks home and play those really tough board battles. And I'm not seeing it this week, and it's not necessarily a cause for major concern. Mason Appleton's a fascinating player because I feel like every year for the past 3 seasons, since he's gotten back from Seattle, whatever that's been, I'm not excited about the idea of Mason Appleton being a lock on the third line. He starts the season and I'm like, hold on, maybe I was wrong. This guy's fun. There's some potential here. And then after 15 games, it's like, oh, right. This is why I was not overly enthused by this situation, right? So I think we're getting into that territory a little bit. It's pretty pretty benign. I think Nino Niederreiter has a ton more offensive upside, ton more upside just in general on that third line. And if it weren't for someone like Nikita Chibrikov waiting in the wings, like I wouldn't be overly, losing sleep over Mason Appleton, but I think there are opportunities for some upgrades to shake up that line a little bit. Scott Arniel said it himself, though. He said it to us on Friday, says it pretty frequently. He likes to give lines time to play with one another. He doesn't like using the line blender. He likes using the deep pairing blender. We can get into that a little bit later if we want, but I think we'll continue to see that line for quite a bit longer. So it would be nice to see both of the players that we've named for our trending down segment here step it up a little bit in the next little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Lowry's fine. No,
he's fine.
That line gets two of our trending down picks. Like last week, we had Fleury and Pionk because that pairing was struggling a bit. I'd like to see that line pick things up, as we've seen with the top two lines, as the top line dominated last night, and Nikolaj Ehlers and Cole Perfetti had a strong game as well, and Vladislav Nemeskov. Not going to leave him out. Not just going to name 5 of the 6 players in the top 6. So that was trending up or trending down. Thank you everyone for joining us here on this Sunday morning to share your picks for trending up, trending down. Now, Lyss, you brought up the defense core. A lot of people have been talking about it. Before we move on and kind of preview 2025 and where the Jets are going over this next week, quickly mention the defense core. Last night, Stanley played, Heinola played, Miller started the game on his offhand, on the second pair. Pionk was on his offhand. And then I want to say midway through the game when the Jets were down 2-0, I think they went to Stanley, Pionk, and Heinola Miller to get those players on their strong hands, because I saw those pairings a lot more than I did, say, a Miller Pionk. I saw a lot of Josh Morrissey last night, which you're going to see when Fleury and Sandberg are both out, 2 players who are probably regulars in this Jets defense core. How did you think the Jets defense managed last night against the Senators? And what do you think? Where do you think they're at going forward with Hayden Fleury week to week and Dylan Sandberg just now starting to resume skating? So probably still a few weeks away.
Yeah, I don't know, Connor.
Loaded question.
I don't get very excited about this defensive core. Let's put it that way. I think there are a lot of holes, a lot left to be desired by the bottom chunk of this group here. I don't know what I would do if I was Scott Arniel, right? Like, people are talking about Logan Stanley, and I'm going to jump to the defense of my media colleagues here, in the sense of a lot of people are saying, demand answers from Scott Arniel. Why is he playing? You know damn well why he's playing. Scott Arniel has said it. You know exactly what the appeal is there. You can disagree with the appeal. You know why he's playing. I know why he's playing. Yeah. We all know why Logan Stanley is playing. The question is right now, what is the most optimal combination of these 6 defensemen? I think Dylan Coghlan definitely plays a game on this back-to-back coming up here. 1000%. I bet you McDonald's breakfast if you want to go. Like, Dylan Coghlan plays a game in this next stretch. No,
I'm
I know
already
you
up
won't.
one. I'm up one. I still haven't got it because Jacob's in my warm, sunny Miami, and I don't know.
Okay, whatever. Well, you know what? It was above freezing yesterday, so like, who's laughing out,
exactly.
Jacob?
Exactly.
But I think if I were Scott Arniel in this next stretch, yeah, sure, get Dylan Coghlan in there for a game or 2. Coghlan has been called back up. He was down with the Moose for a couple games, cleared waivers to go down there, and is back up with the club, and had a really long media availability at practice on Friday, and spoke extensively about how he believes his type of game is well suited for the type of hockey that the Winnipeg Jets play, which should be very exciting and very encouraging for Jets fans. But where I'm going with this is that he's still the 7th guy and will be the 7th guy for the foreseeable future, just in terms of Fleury and Sandberg, at least for the next few games or anything like that. You have your 6 guys that you're going to play down this stretch. Don't galaxy brain it. Get ready to move some of these fellas around a little bit here. You have 3 right shot defensemen and 3 left shot defensemen. I understand that load management and balancing matchups is important, but forcing a bunch of guys to play on their offside just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, especially when we know that Dylan DeMello has a track record of playing good hockey with Logan Stanley. And I don't think he has a huge NHL sample with Ville Heinola, if any at all, but that's a pairing that I do think, we used to call it like the babysitter pairing or whatever when Dylan DeMello was on the 3rd pairing and was managing the rookies a little bit and stuff like that. There's potential for some good fits here. And I'm
Yeah.
glad we've seen a little bit of movement around. Like, yeah, seeing Stanley Pionk and Hannah Miller yesterday, fine with that, just move around a little bit. But kind of the TLDR of this take is that who your 6 guys are going to be for the next little stretch here. So it's really important, I think, to make sure that this decor is positioned and set up in this depth chart for the best situation for success. And if that means that you double shift Josh Morrissey after a goal with Neil Pionk to try and get an insurance marker, go for it, do it. I'm not saying that you need to play 3 set pairings exactly each for 20 minutes a night. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think there needs to be a little bit of creativity and movement to make sure that guys are in positions to succeed, because I understand that, maybe you want to keep Morrissey, DeMello together and everything like that, but Stanley Heinola doesn't work, and that pairing not working could be the detriment of your team for 15 minutes a night or whatever it is that you're playing them, right? So those 15 minutes are just as important as the other 45 in the game. So just tread lightly,
Yeah, I agree with you. And I had a take, and I'm not fully bought in on it, but the Jets are the best team in the NHL. And when you look at their defense core on paper, at least, like I was saying this to you last night, Lyss, after the game, where it's like, this is one of the more thin defense cores, let's say, that I've ever seen from a top team in the NHL. Like, if you go look, and again, Dylan Sandberg's hurt, Hayden Fleury's hurt. Those guys are probably both regulars, and Stanley and Heinola are probably both out if full health, right? So this is not the Jets playoff defense core. I'm not slighting the Jets defense core going into the playoffs, even though that's where I think they should look to upgrade this season rather than up front. This defense core, as currently constructed, very, very thin. And why wouldn't they be, right? They have 2 top 4 injuries to left side defensemen. And it's kind of miraculous how they're still kind of going and holding teams to 2 goals or less, like the Ottawa Senators. And I guess that's more Connor Hellebuyck than anything. But yeah, I mean, choice is TK. 37 covers up a lot of the shortcomings this team has. He has for a long time, and he's doing it right now. And he did it again last night in the 4-2 win. And I think this is a great point here. The Avs targeted the Jets defense last playoffs. They even said it as much in like a presser the week after, or I think it was after the season, where they knew that the Jets didn't really exit their zone as strongly. So they dumped the puck in a ton, got on the forecheck, and just waited for them to turn the puck over with relentless forechecking. And I think the Jets know that. And I think they know that that's where they're going to be upgrading this year. And I agree with you. This is not any way, shape, or form going to be the Jets defense core going into the playoffs. And if it is, they're going to be in trouble, but it's not going to be, because they're going to upgrade. Dylan Sandberg's going to be back. Hayden Fleury might be the guy for the third pair. Like you said, there's a lot of options there. So it's a really interesting kind of dynamic with the Jets defense core right now, because you have Morrissey and DeMello who have really turned it around. I'd say in the last month and a bit, their numbers have been really good, at least analytically. And yeah, outside of that, it's kind of like, yeah, they're hurt and they're managing, they're winning. It is what it is.
Yeah.
The power play and Connor Hellebuyck can take them this far. How about a few more games, right? So we'll see what the defense core looks like for Nashville and Colorado this back-to-back. Let's transition into that and talk about the upcoming schedule for the Jets. Like I said, 9 of their next 10 games at home. Their record at home this year, 13-3-1, which is one of the best records in the league. There's a few teams with 14 wins, but they've played a ton more games at home, as the Jets are having their big home stretch, as we know, coming up right here. So one of the best points percentages, I should say, home records in the league. Lyss, what are you looking for in this stretch of 9 of 10, starting with tomorrow night against Nashville and then Tuesday against Colorado? Which goaltenders do you think play in each of those games as well? Do you think Comrie gets Colorado, or do they save Hellebuyck? Where are you at with this upcoming stretch, starting with Nashville Monday and then Colorado the next night?
Yeah, I think, especially with the losses that the Winnipeg Jets have had in front of Comrie in the last little bit, and the type of hockey they've played in front of Eric Comrie in the last little bit, I think they're not going to be willing and able to play or run that risk against the Colorado Avalanche. I think they want the best version of their team, and the best version of your hockey team gets Logan Stanley, my goodness, gets Connor Hellebuyck on the ice playing the full 60 there. So I think that Connor Hellebuyck will play Colorado. I think they'd love to get Comrie a couple more wins. That'd be awesome. So hopefully they can play a good game against Nashville on Monday. I think he gets the start there. Just in terms of the home stretch, though, you're totally right. We've seen some really great hockey from this Jets group at home. Some of my favorites this year, 5-0 win against Florida, 5-0 win against Minnesota. I guess maybe that's the magic number. Maybe those are the tickets. I think it's important to watch for, as basic as it sounds, kind of the fundamentals in this stretch, right? Like, this isn't, needing to eke out a win. And Sean Reynolds got into a bit of a tiff about this last night about talking about how, good teams find a way to win is kind of a tired excuse and a tired thing to say. This is not a stretch where I want to see the Winnipeg Jets be a good team that finds a way to win. I don't want to see the type. I think the second and third game of the season this year against Chicago and Minnesota, Jets played poorly. We're down. Mark Scheifele scored a goal to tie it up and send it to overtime, and then the more skilled team won the overtime game, right? And that's not what I want to see. I want to see this team put in a full 60-minute effort every single night, focus on those fundamentals and all that sort of stuff, and build up those foundational blocks, because this is the time to do it. And, let your talent squeak out those wins, in your off game 5 of the playoffs or whatever it is, when you're suffering through a beatdown and you just need a goal to get you through or whatever.
Sure.
Focus on playing core, important, really strong hockey. And I think that's what I want to see. While this team has a little bit more rest, a little bit less of a travel schedule and all those sorts of things, I just want to see solid performances top to bottom. I want to see that fourth line step it up. I want to see that third line step it up. I want to see the guys who know that their roster spots are not guaranteed on the blue line step it up. Earn your spot, earn your keep, because that it's at risk when other people get healthy. This is starting to get to crunch time a little bit here. Points in points in October matter the same as points in April and everything. This is your time to secure a little bit of a cushion here going into the Four Nations break. Do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And just before we continue to talk about that, Stan Scott with a very generous super chat. Thank you so much, Stan. He says that I think the idea that the goalie's covering up the shortcomings of the team is a little bit of an overused narrative, and I think it also has to do with defensive structure. I will agree with this take. Yes, Connor Hellebuyck is covering up some of the shortcomings. He's the best goalie in the league, best goalie in the world. We know this. But also, since Rick Bowness came in and kind of instilled this defensive structure in the Jets roster, the Jets have been a solid defensive team, defensive structure. And I don't know, this might be a poor analogy. You can very well let me know, Lyss, if it is. But in the NFL all the time, you see running backs get hurt, or you see corners get hurt. And when it's the team like this, I'm going to say it, the San Francisco 49ers, Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, and then their rookie that they just drafted in the 4th round comes in and runs for 150 yards because it's the system, right? I think we can start giving the Jets a little bit of credit for their defensive system. They had Logan Stanley in their top 4 last night and only allowed 2 goals and outchanced the Senators at 5-on-5. Like, I don't know. It's the defensive structure and the ability to just kind of plug and play whoever and still get decent results. I don't know.
Yeah, but they've lost their last 5 goals with their backup goaltender, or 5 games with their backup goaltender in net, haven't they? True. I see it. I get it. I understand. Yeah. It was a good analogy, so I'm not going to dunk on you for that. But I think I'm in between. I'm in between, because I definitely understand why. And Tyson Ducharme says the goalie is part of the team, and I've always agreed with that take for sure. But there is some level of looking at when people are punching above their weight class and others are able to coast because someone else is overperforming. And I think there is a little bit of that, but not as much as there was in the COVID era. That was when, the end of the Paul Maurice era and stuff, that was when I think Connor Hellebuyck was really hiding the deficiencies of the D-corps, when that was hugely problematic. And I think Rick Bowness coming in with fresh eyes and analyzing everything for what it was and not looking too much at results or, game in, game out operations was like, whoa. And I think we've seen some continuity from that revelation. So I'm going to be on Stan Scott's side. Thank you, Stan. We appreciate the super chat. And I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a little bit of both. I mean, I've said this a few episodes in a row now, but you can't fault the Jets for having Connor Hellebuyck and the best power play in the league. But you also have to give them credit for being able to win a game against a team that's red hot with Logan Stanley in their top 4 and Ville Heinola, who struggled, still on the lineup, right? and 2 top 4 defenseman injuries. Hayden Fleury, not a top 4 defenseman, but he was playing in the top 4. So you're pushing guys up the lineup who wouldn't be there otherwise. And thank you, Stan, so much. Hope you have a great holiday season. Thanks for the super chat. And let's get to I don't want to get to it, but Canada lost to Latvia in the World Junior Hockey Championships the other day in a shootout, 3-2 in Ottawa. The Canada had almost 60 shots on goal. I think the final count was like 57. And then they had 8 shots in the shootout or whatever and didn't score on any of them. I know we're mostly watching for Brayden Yager, Lyss, and Brayden Yager had a chance to win the game, just barely got the puck poked off his stick. But I'll just give you the floor on Team Canada, lost to Latvia, game again today against Germany, and what you've seen maybe out of Brayden Yager through the first, the game against Finland and the game against Latvia.
Yeah, I think I need to get on a phone call with the powers that be at making lineup decisions for Canadian rosters, because the galaxy braining, I've used that word several times today, but this is the best time to use it, is out of this world, no pun intended, for both the Four Nations face-off and even more so for Team Canada World Junior defensemen. Whole team. We're just going to go whole team here. And I think the best tweet that I saw about this was Mike Gould, he's a Calgary guy. He's like, the Team Canada here has 2 first pairing defensemen, 2 second pairing defensemen, and 2 third pairing defensemen. And every other team looked at their selection camp and was like, we're going to take 6 first pairing defensemen. And that's the problem, right? Like this tournament needs to be accepted for what it is, which is a showcase of young, fun guys who are going to play together for about 5 minutes before holding the national identity on their shoulders. Like, it is unserious. It is so much bigger than it needs to be, and all these sorts of things. Let the kids play fun hockey. Yes, there's some issues of, needing to be a hero and all those sorts of things, but right now they're playing north-south perimeter hockey, like just icky, like no skill. Like, they're playing third line Winnipeg Jets hockey when they have a bunch of little Kyle Connors and Mark Scheifele's on their team. Like, what are we doing here, right? And I think that was the downfall of that team in that game against Latvia. They're galaxy brain their power play. Oliver Bonk is quarterbacking the power play when he doesn't even do that in London.
Did you see the quote? Yeah, he's like, I'm learning on the fly or something. He said something along that. Like,
when you have players every single other defenseman basically that you invited to camp is a power play quarterback because they're the best defenseman on their team. Like, there's just so much decision making that I feel bad for basically every single kid on this team, just in terms of I feel like the expectations and the opportunities and the skill sets are just not compatible. Everything's a little bit off, right? So I think, and that's all to say, I get frustrated when teams don't play to their full potential and when there are clear reasons how they could. I don't want to take away from Latvia and what they did in that game. That was sick. That was so much fun watching how excited those guys got, watching the goalie, how excited he was. Like, holy smokes, that was fun. That is what the World Juniors are all about. That is what growing the game is all about. You remember how Latvia, when they got third at the World Championships, it looked like Buenos Aires when Argentina wins the World Cup, right? Like, it was exciting. It was awesome. And I love to see that. I love to see that. I was cheering my heart out for them yesterday against the US, and they had a couple of really close looks and a couple of, when they killed that 5-on-3 and then they got a good chance. Like, I was psyched. It didn't quite happen. It's too bad. It'll be very interesting to see how the Canada-US game goes. Obviously, we can get into that. Sure. I'll get off my soapbox. Apologies for this this lengthy little stretch here, but I don't blame the players. I blame the decision making from the beginning till the end. And then, yes, maybe some of the players could have changed a couple things here, but Matthew Schaefer's a really tough loss for this group, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of bounce back.
Yeah, Matthew Schaefer, to me, in the Finland game, I mean, he's projected to go number 1 or number 2 next year. Him or James Hagen's a center for the Americans.
James Hagens has got to be number 1 at this point. Let's be real.
Right, with Schaefer being hurt now, I think that's all but locked up. But Matthew Schaefer was Canada's best defenseman, and losing him is a massive, massive blow. I said after the Finland game that if you don't have Gavin McKenna or Matthew Schaefer in your top power play unit, then you're just wasting everyone's time. Now they don't even have the option to put Schaefer on the top unit. And that's a tough loss for Canada. And my issue with the roster construction is I feel in years past, Canada had their top 9 was incredibly skilled, and then maybe they had like a fourth line that was the grinders and the hitters and the guys who were going to set the tone, the Lowry line, if you will, of Team Canada, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if Canada hit a single player in the Latvia game. Did you see a single hit? It's
No,
Canada
man,
versus Latvia, and it looked like they were just trying to skill their way. Like, I don't know. This might be like, I get that the selections were the selections, and either you overpower a team like Latvia with skill, or you overpower them by being bigger, faster, stronger. And Canada did neither. And maybe that's more of a reflection on the selections rather than the players themselves. Because I thought the players, again, they had 55 shots on goal. They got goalied. It is what it is. They'll have a chance to bounce back today, and I think they're gonna bounce back in a big way against Germany, and then the USA game, obviously. But I don't know. I just didn't see any hits. It's Canada versus Latvia. Like, I don't know. Do they have too much respect for them? I don't know.
No, like, I just think it's not really the style of player that some of these guys are, right? Which is, and it's so funny. I was talking to my dad about this. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not, and I'm being so hard on these kids. I was talking yesterday I was like, I genuinely, it's so crazy how the World Junior, your perception of the tournament changes when you go from being the same age as the kids to being older than them. I look at them and I'm like, I genuinely don't know if they have like the fine motor skills to play hockey. Like, they are babies, they are small, but that's my preface to, like, this is not their fault. That 3-on-3 overtime was unwatchable. It was the worst 3-on-3. Like, these guys are not, like, why are you trying to put together a team based on identity and depth and whatever and all these things when you are not going to get that out of this group?
You're Canada.
Let them do the Michigan and toe drag, whatever. Like, let them. They're good at, like, get Andrew Crystal up here and let's start scoring some goals. Like, I don't know, man. It's just, I can't get over it. This is Four Nations face-off logic all over again. Get your 12 best forwards out there, get your 6 best defensemen out there, and let's play some hockey. Yeah,
they built a team like they're Czechia and they're Canada, in my opinion. Like, they built a team like they're gonna have to grind teams down and win 2-1. You're Canada. You should be scoring 8 goals a night. You have the most talented players in the world, and it all goes back to the selection committee and leaving off Michael Misa and Hrabchak, the defenseman, and there's just so many snubs, so many more skilled players who could be here for Canada, and it seemed like their entire bottom 6 is these like 5'11" grinder 2-way style players, and they just aren't scoring enough goals, and that's the problem. Yes, we used to beat Latvia 12-1, but times have changed. And again, I do think Canada bounces back. They play later today against Germany. I believe that game starts at 6:30, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Today. So I think they'll bounce back. I think I said to someone the other day, poor Germany. Like, Canada is now going to be super angry, super pissed off, and they'll probably just run up the score, which would be nice to see if Canada has that capability. But obviously, everyone is focused on the USA game on New Year's Eve. And I, for one, am not feeling very good about it. Is there any other topics you want to discuss, Lyss, before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that covers it. I think Braden Yeager is certainly someone to watch for and continue to watch for. He's on that second unit. He's someone who is going to be accepted to step up in a big way today. He's a leader for this team. He's one of the more senior guys on this team. He's a guy who has some responsibility here. So I'm hoping to see a big game from him today. Yeah,
and they're relying on him a lot as well. Like, I know he's listed as the 4C, but he's playing a lot more minutes than that. He's really like the 2C. And he is he's playing a lot of penalty kill. He's on the second power play unit as well. He was on 3-on-3 overtime. So yes, he's listed as the 4C, but he's playing a lot more than that. Big responsibility, like you said. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. And Comet, I believe, brought it up earlier. Is it pronounced Yager or Yager? Because Gord Miller is saying Yager.
I made a tweet about this, replying to someone, like, kind of joking around that, like, this is there are some parallels to World Juniors where it's, we watch a 6-game sample of these kids and we're like, oh, what if this guy is actually good when we ignore their college seasons or whatever. Lethbridge calls him Yager. Moose Jaw called him Yager. The Winnipeg Jets call him Yager. The Pittsburgh Penguins called him Yager. But now TSN at the World Juniors is calling him Yager, and everyone's like, oh, what if we're wrong? No.
Well, okay, I should remember, but we asked him at development camp, and I just forget what he said. but
My brother, he was not at development camp.
or sorry, at training camp.
Training camp. Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's like
I
you're
don't know.
fabricating a memory here, but
I
yeah,
know.
no, I like he's Braden Yeager until I hear it from the man himself. Unless this is a Yoel Armia situation where, you know, you leave Winnipeg and you let
She's like,
everyone
whoa,
know
yeah.
that your name has actually been pronounced wrong. But
Yeah. This is a can't lose. I'm calling it right now for Canada today against Germany. It's not a must win. I mean, it is, but it's a can't lose because you lost to Latvia. So if you lose to Germany, that's a problem.
This comment from Snackatoba is actually going to make me bang my head against the wall. Gordon Miller asked Yeager directly, and he said, Yager, are you serious? Because I'm actually going to freak out if that's the case. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
We are going to get to the bottom of this and mention it next Sunday on WST Sunday Live. We will figure it out.
I'm going to call Braden myself. What is going on? What the heck?
What is going on? Well, thank you.
But same old says Gord Miller is rarely incorrect. It's a fair point. Really? That's my favorite part of the World Juniors. Sorry, I'm a broadcasting nerd. Like, I love it. The team they pulled together for this is, man, oh man, how fun! How fun!
Gord Miller and Mike Johnson are maybe the best.
If Mike Johnson has 0 fans, I'm dead. I've passed away. Like, I am no longer on planet Earth. I love him so much.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to do it for this show. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking it out with us. WST Sunday Live. Jets with a massive 4-2 win last night, starting off a stretch of 10 out of their next 11 games at home. So there's going to be a lot of games at Canada Life Center. Stay tuned to Winnipeg Sports Talk as we will have you all covered. Obviously, Huss and Remo back to their regular schedule next week, 1 o'clock every single day, Monday through Friday. And then on this upcoming 8-game homestand, starting off in the new year, there is another WST ticket pack night, another game of the month against the Seattle Kraken on Thursday, January 16th. So super excited to see everyone there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us, and hopefully leave a like on the way out if you enjoyed the stream. Happy New Year, everyone. Be safe, be responsible on New Year's Eve.
We'll see you next year.
And we'll see. Oh, goodness. And we will see you next year. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Happy New Year. And we'll see you all next Sunday. From myself, Jacob, and Lyss, thank you for watching WST Sunday Live. See you all next Sunday. Happy New Year, everyone.